Hey everyone, welcome to the Airline podcast series, sponsored by Fetcherr. Today I've got Andre Americo on the show. Andre is the Director of Network and Strategic Planning, Revenue Management, and Alliances of Azul, one of the biggest, if not the biggest and largest, Brazilian carrier. He has over 15 years of experience in the aviation industry and has held various leadership positions at Azul and other airlines as well. In his current role, Andre is responsible for developing and executing Azul's network strategy, revenue management, and their alliances. He's also a member of the Azul's executive team, and in this interview, we're going to talk about how AI is taking aviation to the next level. Andre, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Henri, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you guys, discussing a little bit more about airline, AI, and new technologies.
Amazing. So just for our audience, just so they understand and get some background, can you talk a little bit about your role in Azul and how you got to this role?
Sure. Yeah. As you mentioned, I already have more than 15 years in the airline industry. My background, I studied economics and had a master's in econometrics and quantitative methods. And that kind of led me into the curiosity of exploring new technologies, new stuff, and new science. I have been working in Azul for more than 10 years already, switching roles between revenue and planning. And now I'm in charge of both departments, both revenue and planning, which help us a lot in synchronizing and taking the best out of both worlds while managing two big teams.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And it sounds like quite a journey and that you took every single stepping stone until this position. And you know, the aviation industry is going through major innovations right now, especially with AI. We're hearing AI, you know, in every single vertical, in every single field, in every single field in tech and in traditional industries. And the airline industry, the aviation industry is a very traditional industry. And I'm just wondering, you know, in your opinion, what are some of the greatest challenges that the airlines industry is currently facing?
Okay, yeah. So I think many of the systems, processes we use, many of them are still dated back from the 90s. And we have recently been trying to push those boundaries a little bit further as we explore new technologies, new ways of doing things, experimenting new processes. I think the industry as a whole is also evolving in terms of technologies. And we have been seeing many gains, not only in the revenue planning field, but also in our operations. We recently have been awarded the number one in OTP in the world rank. And that's also thanks to new technologies, new ways and new approaches on old problems. So yeah, of course, the airline industry is evolving a lot, but there's a huge legacy and heirloom we have to adapt to. Why we try to make those changes and move on to new stuff.
You know, you guys, if you read the news, if you read FocusWire or Simple Flying or all the other major publications in the space, everyone is praising Azul. You guys are doing a good job. You guys have been one of the first to adapt AI technologies. You guys have been the first in such a traditional industry. It's not always that easy to be the first to go out and do it, right? How do you think the adaptation of those AI technologies can help improve the airline industries as a whole? And how did it help you guys?
Yeah, it helped us, I think, primarily into expanding our approach to the revenue problem. So I think every airline in the world has systems to manage their revenue, their inventories in an algorithm, old-fashioned way. And the reason we wanted to try and explore new technologies was to learn something different and to learn how this problem could be tackled in a different way. So I think the biggest gain here was not only the management, the new kind of management and science that was being done behind the scenes, but also all the learning that we got from this process. So how how can we see things from a different angle, including more variables, more perspective in the data, and how that leads us to better decisions.
So what I'm sensing is there's also the perspective of having better insights, better better ways to look at it in an analytic way. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. With Fetcherr, for example, we use more variables than any other traditional RM system uses, and actually we are always trying to push new variables into the context of optimization, so that we can learn new stuff. Of course, many of them are like trial and error. Sometimes we think there's a good correlation with something we think it does, and in the end it does not. So that's part of the learning processes and learning what actually impacts demand and bookings and revenue, and how can we adapt to that new environment. So I think being able to adapt to new circumstances is also, as you said, it's also in the DNA of Azul from the very beginning, and it's not different when we approach the revenue optimization problem as well.
I, I love it. I love it, and I tell you why I love it. There's a big critics on legacy solutions or on legacy industries as a whole. We're talking about maybe the financial industry that was about 10, 15 years ago. Obviously, the aviation industry, the travel industry. There's been a lot of critics that legacy solutions are not data driven. They're not making decisions based on data, on real data. It's only about hunches or thoughts or hypotheses, old strategies, and I'm just wondering how, in terms of data, how data driven are you guys today compared to how you guys were 6, 7 years ago?
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the traditional systems are not data driven, because they ingest thousands of data and historical. They know all the major trends, but I think that the big leap here is that the current models that are in use, and that brought us here, that brought the industry as a whole here, they are good. They are statistically correct, but they cannot see or create a deep understanding of what's going on, and all the association between different data points and different variables. I think that's where the big gain is once we put more context in our analysis, and once we can link more dots among different variables. I think that's where the real value is. But the traditional systems got the whole industry to be where they are, and it has been evolving as well. But we thought a different approach would be adequate right now, as we're looking into expanding our ways of doing analysis, and of I always mention that because I think it's really the core, and create new understandings of the data that we currently have. All the airlines have massive amounts of data, and I think just like our brains, we don't use 100% of what we got. And I think the AI and big data leap in technology is going to allow us to use and actually learn more from that same data.
Do you feel like COVID-19, the crisis, the pandemic, was a tipping point in making this transitional into more data-driven insights, into bringing in AI, into innovating?
Yes, I think, of course, it helped a lot, because we had our operations cut by almost 95% in total number of departures, and as our operation was small, we didn't have the need for robustness or scale, because what we were managing was actually very small, and it gave us time to readapt and to rescale everything for our future needs. So what COVID bought from us, took away from us, was time. And in the meantime, we were preparing to come up stronger and bigger than we were back in 2019. So if we compare our size to 2019, we are already more than 30% bigger number of departures. Right
Wow.
now we are at the 900 departures a day, and that was only possible because back then, when we were shrinking because of COVID, we were also preparing to rebound a couple years later.
That is amazing, and kudos to you guys. You guys have been, one of the first, as mentioned previously, to actually adopt new technologies, to actually think, to think into the future and take risks. And you guys are definitely reaping the rewards out of those risks that you guys took, while everyone else, other airlines, weren't doing anything, weren't thinking even about, implementing new technologies at that time. And this kind of takes me to the next question. Obviously you guys did a phenomenal job with this, but do you think that any other airlines, even competitors, do you think they can go, through the same AI tech revolution as you guys did? Does it require a certain organizational character? Maybe other airlines don't have an Andre, right? They don't have someone like you who's so forward thinking and kind of wants to think about the future and already act upon it. Do you think other airlines can adapt as well? Do you think they have the resources the character to do so?
Yeah, I always assume my competitors are at least as smart as I am, or even smarter. We cannot assume or be arrogant in any game that we play, because there are also very smart people in working for our competitors. So I think what it takes to actually do this move is like it's not only a matter of choosing new technologies and making the option to use it or not, but it also involves a lot of culture and change management. So once you move from a no technology to a new technology, things are going to be done differently. The teams will have to learn new ways of doing things, new ways of thinking, and I think that's actually the hardest part. It's not a I think that making the choice of trying new stuff is the easiest part of it. I think the hardest part is all the change management that's involved, because uh, you lose some. In one hand, you lose some of the control you thought you have, because you are so used on measuring stuff the way you always did. But on the other hand, you have to learn also from the new system. How is it working? What is it taking into account in its decision making, so that we all learn how to influence it better. And that's why change management is so important.
Obviously Fetcherr played a big part in kind of this whole AI innovation in this industry. What do you think is the difference between Fetcherr and maybe other current solutions that are out there?
I think the main difference it's conceptual. I think it moved away from the whole from I'm not gonna call it simple, but it moved away from just getting historical data and making predictions from those sets of data, but also on contextualizing the variables among themselves. So I'll throw you some examples. We had an internal joke that traffic is correlated to the demand we see in airline industry.
Hmm.
And once we had Fetcherr in place and the pilot was working fine, we said, okay, why not? Let's test adding new variables and let Fetcherr decide if that makes sense for predictions or not. I don't have to give an answer. So we tried a bunch of them. Like we thought of putting traffic data, we thought of putting our website searches and looks and books, conversion rates, and I think that's how we can push also Fetcherr model to evolve with us.
Hmm. It sounds like Fetcherr is some sort of crystal ball where you can see the future.
Yes, I think that they would like to be called like that, and I think it has allowed us to make good forecasts for the future and see things from a different perspective. So right now we typically look at we we are very used to look at bookings data, make year over year or month over month comparisons, and now we are trying to move away a little bit from that and seeing what other things can impact the actual demand for air travel.
Implementing new technologies is not easy. What were some of the technical, challenges that you guys were facing when you guys implemented a new AI system?
I think the number one is because our platforms are so we have more than 15 years of existence, so we have ways of doing things that we had to move away a little bit in terms of infrastructure, IT infrastructure especially, and also how we treat data and how we handle data. I think that was a big hurdle in the beginning. We had to overcome because typically we were doing like inventory updates once or twice a day, and we know Fetcherr can handle way more than that. The way we're not doing it yet is because we are not prepared. So we are trying to do that, to be prepared, to get prepared, also to be able to handle the full firing power that Fetcherr can allow us. Like we can price point markets and flights several times a day, and that's different from what we had. Therefore, we did not have the capacity or the infrastructure needed for it, and that's something we are working on. How do we reach the same capabilities to do those moves and those changes in a more frequent and granular way.
I really hope that this technology really continues to help you guys go to the next level and the whole team, and really get even more crystal clear on those data insights and how they can impact every single step of the business. I want to move to another question, and this is kind of like a curveball question, so I'm really interested to hear what's your take on that. Super interested. Customers, okay, they might be worried that adapting AI technologies will cause airlines on one hand to enjoy the revenue uplift, while the customers themselves having to spend more. So my question to you is this: how would the prices and the customers be affected by the abilities of an AI-based demand prediction and prices system, and will it benefit both sides of the coin?
Yeah, ultimately, everything we do is to favor our customers. The point here is not like we're not taking advantage from customers, but we are trying to manage so that every customer has a more suitable offer for what he's looking at, and so that everybody that has different needs pays for what he gets. So if the customer doesn't need to travel with a bag, he should not be paying for the bag. If he's buying early enough, he should get a good deal. And the more granularly we can make this, the better offer we have, and in the end, all the customers are benefited, and also Azul is. So it's a win-win situation from my point of view. And the customer behavior is also changing. More than 70% of our customers don't go through a check-in as they did like 10 years ago, 5 years ago. There's also a lot of as the customer behavior changes, some other things the airlines can provide become more valuable. So having Wi-Fi, live TV on board, free snacks at your choice, also as not as a complimentary service, also helps in that sense. So we are providing and giving value to the customer, and we are trying to make it as tailor-made as we can for each customer. So don't worry, the every customer is going to have a good deal for them, and I don't see this as bad for an industry. I totally in the opposite direction. I see it as a good opportunity, so that people who were not flying will be able to be flying, and that's where all the incremental revenue should be coming from, as it always did from our network conception and our revenue strategy.
Love it. Yeah, and we're seeing every single traditional industry out there, every single traditional legacy industry really taking that leap. That's the next step of evolution, and I really think that customers, like you said, are going to benefit for it, both on getting more personalized experiences, the granularity that you talked about, that you mentioned as well, a more streamlined and less friction, which is what every customer, every client wants eventually. How do you think AI will evolve in the industry in the next future? What kind of benefits can it provide to other departments? Rather than only in pricing and revenue management.
We have been using AI already, not only in the revenue context, but also in operation, as I mentioned earlier. And that's one of the usages we can do, but it has already been used by Azul for boarding people more efficiently, for boarding the aircraft, sequencing the passengers in a different way, so that the boarding becomes more shorter and more efficient. We have cameras recording our aircraft on the ground, spotting and timing each one of the movements, like fueling, loading luggage and catering, boarding and boarding, so that we can time and we can spot how and where we are losing time, so that we can make our operations more efficient. And all this data collection is being done by AI cameras, for example, and that will provide us a lot of data to work with, and hopefully also a lot more insights on the operations. But I think eventually many other areas could be benefit. I mean, the crew scheduling problem is it's an incredibly complex problem to be solved. We have some optimizers in place already working, but I think there's another generation of optimization that can be done using AI. We have even marketing. You can base your marketing investments based on AI, as you get to understand better the market dynamics, and the ratio of investment and reward you get based on every penny you invest in marketing. So I mean the usage is virtually infinite, and I think many different departments can benefit from that.
Travel is seeing such a huge, resurgence, right now, right? How are airlines, taking advantage of the high demand, and how is Azul taking advantage of this high demand? We did see some very promising articles in, Simple Flying about those massive numbers compared to 2022.
Yeah. So from design, our strategy has always been to provide the most comprehensive network in Brazil, and we are serving more destinations than anybody else in the country, and that's allowing the growth of the industry and also of our customers' portfolio. If you take the last 10 years of industry growth, half of that growth was done by Azul. And it was done by creating new markets, bringing new customers to the air travel industry, and not only on the domestic side but also on international. We are also expanding our international network so that we can provide service not only from the big main cities but also from our secondary hubs. So I think right now we serve international markets from 5 of our different hubs, and that's bigger than any other airline in Brazil is doing right now. I think that gives you a sense of how we create and develop our own demand, and how we focus in our competitive advantage, which are our comprehensive network and our strategy.
That's amazing. In general, where do you see the aviation industry in 10 to 15 years?
Yeah, I think we still have a lot to be done. Although Brazil has now service to 160 cities, our original business plan for this year contemplated 200 of them, and they will be served eventually. And we think not only expanding but also connecting more dots internally, connecting more cities directly, avoiding the stops and improving service to our customers. I think that's one big move that's constantly happening and will continue to happen in the future. And I think one big major leap is the adoption of new aircraft technologies. So right now we have more than 80% of the ASKs, which is the industry measure for supply, are being flown by new generation and fuel efficient aircraft. That's more than any other airline in Brazil. So I think the trend continues toward flying more, providing more service, better service, and more efficiently. I think that's what all the airlines are trying right now, and I think that's the plan for most of them.
Amazing. Love it. Andre Americo, thank you so much for being on the show and taking the time. You guys are doing an exceptional work, and you specifically, the way you're handling and the way you're forward thinking and taking the company to the next level. That's definitely something to be proud of.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks for inviting us to join you today, and looking forward to the next industry steps to exploring more the new technologies and making all those leaps in the aviation industry. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you, Andre. Thank you so much.